Here's the scenario where I think the Chiefs trading up not only would make sense, but be very realistic. We know that, and I've explained this before, they're picking 9. Mendoza's going 1. We assume Jeremiah Love is going somewhere, you know what I mean, in the top, in those first 8 picks as well. There are 6 impact defensive players that are, to me, a cut above every other defensive player in the draft. The 2 linebackers, Avril Reese and Sonny Styles. The 2 edge rushers, Reuben Bain and Bailey, who Barnwell's talking about. And then, all right, Caleb Downs is a defensive player, and then Carnell Tate. I should have said impact players, the number 1 wide receiver. If you get to like pick 6 or 7 and no offensive linemen have gone off the board, and it becomes very possible, if not likely, meaning if the Giants and the Browns don't take an offensive lineman, it's like, man, the 6 guys that we would be happy with, those 6 guys I just mentioned, are all going to be gone by 9, then absolutely moving up to 6, 7, or 8, and swapping out 29 for a second round or something like that. I have an idea of what those trades would look like. I think that would make sense. I think they can bide their time and wait and see if offensive linemen go early, which I think is what they hope, and then one of those guys naturally falls to them. But it wouldn't be that hard to say to the Cleveland, be like, hey, you have 6 and 39. We have 9 and 29. How about, why don't we swap those? Like you move up, you move back into the first round.
I like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think that is a realistic scenario if they feel like they need to.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of that. I just feel like if you feel strongly about one of these edge rushers, you got to make a move, because if Dallas, who's sitting right behind you,
then they move up,
decides, you know what, we want an edge rusher, we feel strongly about it, and you're trying to wait that long. Like, Dallas is right there doing the same thing.
That's interesting, too.
They're on the same path in terms of what the need is right away. Now, we all understand Dallas could go defensive back, so could Kansas City.
Yes.
So they're kind of walking the same path. And so I don't know if they can wait that long, because, like I said, Dallas is going to possibly be lurking and trying to usher the same type of a deal for one of these teams so that they can move up and get their guy. So it's either you're going to stay because everything just falls into your lap, which is likely to, or you feel strongly about it and you got to do it earlier than just waiting to see if one of those guys will be available pending how the draft order falls. Because I just believe that there's too many teams that could be doing the same thing that pick after Kansas City that would already be doing that very thing.
I think that you do it for conviction for premium impact player. Like, if you think David Bailey is going to be Will Anderson, you do it.
That'd be pretty sweet.
But that's otherwise the Chiefs. All we do is talk about how many they do have a lot of needs. They do have a defensive backfield with multiple questions. They do have a pass rush spot with questions. Like they do have a wide receiver 1 issue. Like, giving up a lot of your draft ammo, even if it's just 1 extra pick, is in a draft where you're supposed to be, you want to come out of this draft with hopefully 3 starters. You want to be throwing a lot of darts at the board.
Yeah, I actually agree 100%, and Danny pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. This is an interesting conversation to be having right now. You can look at it from a few different angles. And like I always say in all my draft discussions, these kinds of conversations are incredibly difficult to have because you don't know. Greg brought up the possibility that the Cowboys might be trying to do something specific, and then Nick starts talking about how many offensive linemen will be taken. There are just too many unknowns to have this conversation in good faith right now, because you're constantly asking yourself, what's actually realistic? But if I'm looking at it from a more general perspective, they need talent. They need depth. They need a lot of players. So they are sitting in a fantastic situation. This is where you have to trust your general manager and say, listen, if we throw multiple darts, can we get several impact players, several starters? What's the possibility? Do we really need this absolute, over-the-top, massive impact player? Do we need a superstar? Let's just be very generic with that language. Rather than just impact player, a superstar in the most traditional sense. Let's use established superstars that are not disputed at all. Whether it's Saquon Barkley or Myles Garrett, one guy on offense, one guy on defense. Perfect. Justin Jefferson, okay, we've got a wide receiver, a running back, a guy to get after the quarterback. The Chiefs, no doubt, would be better with any of those types of players. Undeniable. Undeniable, undeniable, undeniable. But having one of those players is not the difference between them being able to extend the dynasty or not, between being truly great or not. But if they're able to come out of this draft and get 3 or 4 players that are, honestly, just take a collection of players from the Los Angeles Rams defense, or a collection of players from the Eagles again in 2024, getting Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, and they added Saquon, but if we're just sticking with defense, don't let your mind go immediately to the superstars, because there are too many needs. There's too much that needs to be addressed here. And again, I want to emphasize, no doubt about it, when you add some of these clearly special players, it makes a massive difference. But the way the Chiefs have operated, and the way you have with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve Spagnuolo, I just think if you have a larger talent pool rather than a peak talent pool, you're in a remarkable situation to have so much more versatility, resiliency, as well as the ability to match up against the other teams you're facing. Can there be some singular moments where, again, I'm just using established names, Myles Garrett? If you have Myles Garrett going up against Josh Allen or going up against Bo Nix, or if you had offensively a Saquon Barkley going up against the Broncos, it would no doubt help you. And could put you in a slightly better position to win those games. But I just think that for the last couple of years, the margin of error for the Chiefs has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. Think about when they had a larger margin of error. They had more of a range of talent rather than a concentration. Now, don't get me wrong, they had concentrated talent like prime Travis Kelce. So that's why I'm trying to be really clear about what I'm saying. I'm not saying you don't need great players, or that great players don't help you. That's not what I'm saying. But I just think that in terms of how you want to match up, the Chiefs need more depth. They just need more capital, honestly. They just need more to work with. Especially because you have the coaching staff for that. You have the thing that essentially no other team has. You have elite coaching on both offense and defense. So having a larger pool of talent gives you so much more to work with. Whereas when you concentrate that talent, it's like, well, they'd better deliver. And this has been proven by the Chiefs. Even just defensively alone, this has been proven. With Spagnuolo and the way he's operated, the way he's dialed up pressure in the past, you don't need Myles Garrett in that moment. Your depth speaks volumes. And even offensively, let's be even more generic with A, B, and C talent. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes would clearly be better. I think with Andy Reid and Mahomes, they would clearly be able to have an elite offense. If it's Mahomes, Andy Reid, and all B's out there, maybe 1A. But if you're now going to have a handful of C's, 1B, and 1A+, does it open the door for some really awesome moments? Does it open the door for some really exciting plays? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it becomes too concentrated. It becomes too one-dimensional. To the point where if you flush Andy Reid with a bunch of B's and Mahomes, I'm taking you over the teams that have some of the big gigantic names like the Justin Jeffersons, the Saquons, the Derrick Henrys, etc. We've seen what Andy Reid and Mahomes can do with C's on the roster. We've seen what they've done with A's. So we've seen a little bit of everything. And I'm a firm believer that at this moment in time for the Kansas City Chiefs, it's more about the volume of talent rather than the concentration of talent. Now, that doesn't mean, and again, I'm on the record saying I want the Chiefs to get Mahomes a playmaker on offense, specifically at tight end or wide receiver. He needs his next security blanket. But that doesn't mean he needs to be the next Travis Kelce either. Even if he got someone like Colston Loveland or something that offers a high degree of consistency and reliability. But it's actually kind of funny, because they're saying, oh, they should trade up for a top-end pass rusher. And then Danny says, if you have conviction about that player, then you go do it. If you have conviction about an offensive player, then you go do it. If you say, we can get Patrick Mahomes his next security blanket for the rest of his career, then you go do that. Then I am all for that. If you can find that security blanket for him, whoever it is, then I am a firm believer in doing that, and I would be singing the praises of a move like that. I just don't think that player is an edge rusher. I also find it really funny, and obviously this is first things first, but Colin kept talking about how edge rushers are really not that important, blah blah blah, and other people have echoed that. But Colin has been very loud about it and said you shouldn't really pay for an edge rusher. He says, look at all the teams that have paid for edge rushers, they're not really that good. They're 1-4 collectively in the playoffs, or whatever it is. And now you're talking about trading incredibly valuable draft capital to go out and get an edge rusher. This is why I always say, and believe me, I've knocked Colin's take on that, so I'm not saying I believe it, but it's just one of those things where there are no hard and fast rules for how to build a team. There are no hard and fast rules for how to build a team. But I think when you are as well run as the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have the greatest coaching staff, the larger the talent pool you have, I'd just much rather have that. It makes everyone's life easier. They don't need to have all A's to be great. They just don't. And we've already seen that in different runs over the years, whether it was with Peyton Manning, whether it was especially with Tom Brady. I think that's constant when you have the right coaching and the right quarterback in place. If you're in a different situation, if you have a young quarterback who's being developed, you have a good coach but not an Andy Reid level coach, that's why I said there are no hard and fast rules. I'm talking about this specifically. And I'm also looking at it from a longevity perspective. This is your opportunity. I went on a whole rant the other day about how this is your opportunity. If you get this draft right, if you get enough talent, you're extending your lifeline by 3, 4, or 5 years. If you mess this up, and if you concentrate the talent too much, you go back to what it was like in 2023 and 2024. And I said this in the comment section, of course you can win, as they proved, but deep down, it didn't quite feel right. It just didn't quite feel right. And you were at that point really leaning on taking advantage of teams just not being as good, rather than you being great. I think there's another path forward for the Kansas City Chiefs. The last thing I'll say, and this is what makes it hard, and this is what's unfortunate, if you almost felt like Mahomes was 2 years younger and didn't just come off an injury, you could make the argument that you should trade out of this first round and save it, basically do WH. At the Rams did and save it for next year. Because what's so unfortunate for the Chiefs is that if they had these picks, and it was in 2024 when everybody was picking quarterbacks, what did we have? We had 5 quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix. 5. I don't know if I'm forgetting anyone else, did I say Drake May? So if that's the case, the Chiefs are literally set up to take whoever they want, the best non-quarterback that they could possibly want. And if you have a suspicion that things are potentially shaping up that way next season, you could make the argument that, you know what? We could do so much damage in next year's draft with that capital. Because you're banking on the fact that you're not going to have as great of a pick next year, you're hoping to get back on track. So it's actually an inconvenience. And this is why there are so many things that are out of people's control. Because again, if this was a year like 2024, and this was the way things unfolded for the Chiefs, that number 9 pick becomes equivalent to like a number 2 overall pick, and you don't need a quarterback. The power you have is insane. This year, someone's only drafting Fernando Mendoza, and that's it. Nothing else. So that actually kind of hurts the Chiefs in a way, to the point where Nick is kind of like, we have to see who everyone else is drafting. Are they going offensive line? Are they going wide receiver? Are they going edge rusher? What's the story here? So I think it's pretty interesting how some of those things, how you kind of get that mismatch in timing. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you like this idea of them trading up to target a top-end pass rusher? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.